Chapter 1186, A Way to Escape the Forbidden Land. Lu Shu was conflicted. After all, with the king cow protecting the rest of the cows, he could not chase them at full speed. He was afraid that the king cow would make another reckless move. It would be difficult for them to resolve this stalemate. If this continued, it might end even after half a month. They might even run one round around the Forbidden Land. At that moment, Lu Shu suddenly looked back. He felt a blazing gaze on him. But when he turned back, the blazing gaze cooled down. Lu Shu clearly saw Coral flying towards him. Wait. Why could you fly? Were you cheating? This was what Lu Shu immediately thought. He had tried many times. As long as he flew, he would be struck by lightning. If this was not the case, why would he be targeted by this herd of cows? Furthermore, he had asked the cows why they were following him. The cows said that no one else would induce lightning when they flew. Was it because Coral could control lightning? He had trained to the master realm. He understood what was happening in an instant. The king cow realized that there was something wrong with Lu Shu. He was distracted. What was happening? How could he be distracted during a battle between masters? This was a fatal flaw. As long as Lu Shu's rhythm was disrupted, it could free itself from the barrier and prevent Lu Shu from attacking again. But at that moment, the king cow looked on helplessly as it watched Lu Shu. He slashed the lightning barrier while looking back inattentively. The king cow was shocked. What? Was cheating others his talent? Coral flew to Lu Shu. She looked at the cows, then looked at Lu Shu. What are you doing? Lu Shu paused for 2 seconds. They are trying to attack me. The king cow almost vomited blood. Was he playing the blame game? Young man, you have tricked us to this extent, yet you still dare to deliver malicious attacks? If it were not for you, would everyone be involved in this? But the king cow started to panic. An external force had come to disrupt the stalemate. From the expressions of the young man and young woman, there was definitely something between them. The young girl was here to help the young man fight. The king cow felt that this could not go on. Although it looked like they could exhaust Lu Shu, it was worried that the other creatures in the Forbidden Land would discover their secret. If the creatures in the Forbidden Land thought about breaking through, it would be very troublesome. But at that moment, Coral suddenly said, "Stop. Listen to me." The cows thought, "You are the same kind as the young man." How could they believe her? Thus, no matter whether it was the cows or Lu Shu, no one stopped. Suddenly, Coral took out the Gungner from her invisible storage equipment. In the past, the deities treated the Gungner as a treasure. Now, Coral had spent a year living beside the World Tree. She could no longer count how many branches of the World Tree Arcane had given her. Every branch would become a new Gungner after integrating with her blood. Coral was also much stronger. She was no longer the same old Coral, who almost died when her Gungner was damaged. But when the cows saw the Gungner, they were shocked. That was a branch of the World Tree, right? The lightning within the branch had been released. How did this girl do it? The king cow stopped. Lu Shu was afraid that it was up to something and stopped. Was this an opportunity for them to shake hands and make peace? Of course, with Lu Shu's cautious nature, he continued to attack the barrier. He did not stop, even for one moment. The king cow was about to collapse. He was very careful. From King Cow's distress, plus 666. Coral said to the king cow, "Promise me that you will not attack, and I will make sure that he will not attack either." How about it? The king cow was puzzled. This girl seemed much better than Lu Shu. Furthermore, this was to his advantage. As long as Lu Shu stopped, it would be up to them whether they wanted to fight or leave. But it looked at Coral in doubt. Then, it looked at Lu Shu, who was still attacking the barrier. Could you really make him stop? Look at him. Coral smiled and said to Lu Shu, "There's no point in continuing this. It is better for everyone to discuss this. You should stop." To the king cow's disbelief, Lu Shu actually stopped. None of them moved. The situation was very puzzling. Coral asked the king cow, "Did you complete your evolution by eating lightning?" Lu Shu was dumbfounded. He had thought that the cows ate lightning to survive. He did not expect them to eat lightning not to fill their stomachs, but to train. There were many mysteries in this world. There were such evolutionary paths as well. The king cow nodded its head. Then, it saw Coral pass the gungner in her hands to it. Coral said, "This is my thanks. You can eat it." The king cow could recognize the world tree. It said in a low tone, "Even if you give me the world tree to eat, I cannot possibly open up the forbidden land for you. Once the forbidden land is open, it can no longer be closed. Do you know how many people will die if I let the creatures in the forbidden land out? Are you saying that there are many more creatures and a wider world outside? And many people are living out there? How did they come in?" Lu Shu asked curiously. But the king cow did not pay attention to Lu Shu. It looked at Lu Shu. They were enemies. They would not trust each other. "But we can't possibly be stuck here forever." Coral smiled. "How about this? Give me a suggestion, and I will give you another branch of the world tree. I only have one more branch. It is very valuable." Lu Shu was dumbfounded when he heard this. He knew that Coral had many world tree branches with her. She had never concealed anything from the heavenly network. Nia Ting had shared this information with Lu Shu. Thus, Lu Shu was dumbfounded as Coral had lied. Coral now seemed more lifelike to Lu Shu. She was no longer the leader of the deities. She was an actual person. The king cow thought about it for a long time, but could not resist the temptation of the world tree branch. It said in a low tone, "I can only tell you a method. Whether it will work will be up to you." Lu Shu sighed. There was finally another way out. To be honest, he did not expect the situation to be resolved so quickly after Coral came. "Come with me." The king cow led its underlings to the depths of the forbidden land. It was as if a secret was hidden there. Coral followed behind. She asked Lu Shu in a small voice, "I see that you have taken away all the plants here?" "Yes." Lu Shu replied simply. They suddenly interacted very closely with each other. He was not yet used to this. Coral carefully asked, "If that's the case, then won't the herbivores have nothing to eat? What will they do?" Lu Shu paused for 2 seconds and said, "Don't worry. I have captured all the creatures who eat plants." Coral was speechless. Coral suddenly laughed. Lu Shu was still the same Lu Shu. He had not changed at all. Chapter 1187, Logical Genius. To Lu Shu, it was extremely easy to prevent the herbivorous creatures from starving to death. They could simply eat in the celestial map. Lu Shu always praised himself secretly. He was a logical genius. However, this was a different story when it came to the king cow. They were the guardians of the forbidden land. Now, Lu Shu not only took away all the plants, but he also tried to explain using this nonsensical explanation. Although the king cow was only responsible in making sure that the creatures in the forbidden land did not break through the barrier, he did not need to care about their survival. Therefore, they did not have any huge reactions when Lu Shu caught the creatures. The cows were rather frustrated by the creatures when they kept barging into the barriers. It saved them much trouble when Lu Shu caught them. However, by doing that, if Lu Shu found a way out, the creatures he had caught would also leave with him. This was a dilemma for the king cow. Was it a correct thing to do for him to tell the other party about the way out? "What do you want from them? Are they dead or alive?" asked the king cow. Lu Shu instantly figured out what the king cow was thinking about and replied, "They are all dead." If he said that the creatures were alive and jumping in the celestial map, the king cow would probably start another fight with him. Lu Shu felt that he had saved a lot of unnecessary troubles for everyone if he did not speak the truth. This was called a white lie. The king cow heaved a sigh of relief. Everything was fine as long as the creatures were dead and could not leave to disturb the rest of the human world. That was his mission. However, when he saw Lu Shu's enthusiasm, he suddenly felt annoyed. Lu Shu, the lowly master, made him extremely troubled. He was so troubled that he did not want to see Lu Shu at all. The king cow said with a bad tone, "Your logic is correct. There are no more plants, so there won't be any problems when the herbivorous creatures die. However, have you ever thought about how some creatures only eat these herbivorous creatures?" At this moment, Coral, who understood Lu Shu the best, suddenly looked pitifully at the king cow. After seeing Coral's expression, the king cow suddenly had a bad feeling. Lu Shu pondered for a moment and said, "Should I also catch the beasts who feed on the herbivorous creatures? Would that do?" From King Cow's Distress, plus 666. Coral sneakily smirked. The king cow was confused. Why did he interpret it this way? What would be left in the Forbidden Land? A herd of cows? What was the purpose of guarding the Forbidden Land? Lu Shu was explaining patiently, "Look, now you can train in assurance. You don't have to worry about the creatures attacking the barrier." The king cow thought, "You make sense, but there's something weird." "Stop your distorted logic," the king cow was unhappy. "If you want to get out, I will tell you a way to get out. Get your hands off the Forbidden Land." However, Lu Shu did not listen to that at all. Why would the ninth heavenly king leave the remains without taking the treasures? Anyone could die except for him. However, after walking behind the cows for half a day, Lu Shu and Coral found out that there was a problem. The creatures in the remains were the most afraid of the cows. This was like the relationship between the prisoner and the prison guard. Therefore, whenever creatures found that there were cows nearby, they would run for their lives. Therefore, Lu Shu did not see any creatures along the way. The king cow was rather proud. Although Lu Shu found a bug, the cows still ruled over the Forbidden Land. "So, exactly how many creatures are there in the Forbidden Land and why did they get trapped inside?" asked Lu Shu curiously. The cows were the most familiar with the Forbidden Land and therefore it was the most convenient to ask them that question. The king cow smirked, "Do you think I will answer you? Stop trying to get me to reveal things. I have already done this lady and the world tree branch's favor by telling you how to get out of here." Lu Shu suddenly realized that the world tree branch was extremely important to the cows. "Can you tell me more about the things outside of the Forbidden Land? Who was the mysterious youth who entered that night?" asked Lu Shu curiously. "Stop trying to get any useful information from me." As the king cow said that, he suddenly roared, "Can you stop plucking the plants?" As he said that, Lu Shu continued plucking the plants and could not stop. All right. Although Lu Shu agreed to stop verbally, he had already plucked the plants and thrown them into the celestial map. To be honest, Lu Shu thought that he did it for the creatures and the plants of the remains. The desire of the plants and the creatures for celestial powers was way beyond Lu Shu's imagination. Now, dust that looked like the stars had appeared in the flames of the blazing cloud folds. It looked more powerful than the two creatures of Duanmu Huangqi. Due to the catalytic effect of the celestial powers, many of the plants had blossomed and borne fruit. The fruits fell onto the ground and new plants grew. At this moment, Lu Shu glared at Coral and Coral gave an expression as though she knew about Lu Shu's secret. Lu Shu said softly, "How have you been recently?" Suddenly, Lu Shu's tone made it sound as though he had just seen his ex in a television drama. Both of them met somewhere in the corner of a road and the male character asked the female character in an awkward manner if she was doing well. Coral smiled and replied, "I am fine, I don't have to worry much in the deities." I spend 6 hours a day practicing, 6 hours sleeping, 6 hours dozing off and 6 hours missing you. Lu Shu's heart felt as though it was stabbed by a gungner. He did not expect Coral to be so direct. Coral was still like who she was before, as though both of them had never changed. In Lu Shu's impression, Coral had forgotten what happened between the two of them. He did not even know why she had lost her memory. He only felt as though it was a dream where the male character was admired by the goddess, but the dream ended before they could get married. After that, the goddess no longer recognized him and acted as though nothing had happened. That was probably the mystery in Lu Shu's heart. Therefore, he returned to the heavenly network willingly. So, the most pathetic person was himself. Without the world tree, Coral would never have liked him. Then, after Coral left for the Luotian Cultivation College, everything confused Lu Shu again. What on earth was happening? Didn't you lose your memory? Asked Lu Shu. Coral smiled and replied using Mandarin, there's a saying that goes, I will recognize you even if you turn into ashes. Lu Shu's face turned black. Who taught you that? Chapter 1188, All Tricks. Lu Shu explained patiently to Coral, the sentence, I will recognize you even if you turn into ashes is normally said to enemies. Coral was stunned for a moment. Why? Look, although the literal meaning means that you remember someone very vividly and will never forget that person no matter what, but the precondition is that the person had already turned into ashes, Lu Shu could not stand her poor Mandarin skills. If he found out who Coral's teacher was, he would make sure that person got a lesson from him in the future. Coral laughed while covering her mouth. I see, so how should I say it? Lu Shu replied after giving it some thought, you should say, even if the world ends, I will never forget you. As Lu Shu was teaching Coral, Coral suddenly smiled and said, that's great. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Did he get tricked? Why did it feel weird? He suddenly realized that Coral, the once naive girl, was no longer so naive. She knew how to trick others but was also more vivid. Lu Shu suddenly felt that he had yet to get an answer to his question. Now, it seemed like Coral had regained her memory. However, he had absolutely no idea about when and how she regained her memory. Coral purposely diverted the topic as though she did not want Lu Shu to ask her about it. She only gave Lu Shu one answer. However, for some reason, Lu Shu suddenly felt that all was good as long as she regained her memory and everything else was not important. However, both of them were still rather foreign. This foreign feeling was not because both of their strained relationship but rather an instinct that all adults get. Sometimes, the reason why an adult stopped being close to his friend was not because their relationship got strained, but rather because he was unsure if his friend would still treat him as closely as before. Suddenly, the king cow turned over and said impatiently, all right, stop flirting. Lu Shu was unhappy. Just lead the way and mind your own business. What is the method that you were talking about? I will let you know when we reach, don't be impatient, said the cow. Suddenly, Lu Shu asked, how are you related to your subordinates? They are my descendants. We are a family. The king cow looked at Lu Shu as though he was an idiot. However, Lu Shu said, look, in the human world, there would always be a few disrespectful individuals in the family. Their family members would chase them out and disown them. Do you have any descendants whom you want to disown? The king cow suddenly became wary. What on earth? He was not satisfied with messing around with the plants but also wanted to mess around with the cows. Lu Shu was in the midst of replenishing the celestial map species and wanted to put the new species he saw into the celestial map. However, all the creatures avoided them along the way and Lu Shu thought that the cow was a species too. Look, you never talked about the details regarding the mysterious young man. Didn't he enter the Forbidden Land? Moreover, he could leave whenever he wanted, why aren't you looking after him? Lu Shu asked curiously. This is not something you should be asking, and he is not someone whom you should care about, said the king cow. If you understand him well enough, you would not want to bump into him again. He looks pretty friendly, said Lu Shu. He had fortunately managed to hide his identity in the past, as he knew that if someone was deliberately looking for him, if they were unable to distinguish if he was a friend or a foe, he would better not reveal his identity. This was a principle in the future's world of unknowns. Perhaps nothing would happen to him if he revealed his identity, but who would dare to bet on that? At this moment, even the king cow was unaware that the mysterious young man was looking for Lu Shu. Do you think he is friendly just because he looks friendly? Sneered the king cow. The lesser you know, the better. In fact, you desperately want to leave the barrier, but you don't actually know if it's a good or bad thing to do so. At this moment, the king cow suddenly said, "We're here. Don't make any noise." Lu Shu looked ahead and saw tall trees in front of him. The trees covered the entire sky, and although it was nothing comparable to the world tree, it was still majestic enough to awe Lu Shu. Along the way, he had never seen such a majestic-looking tree, as the Forbidden Land did not seem to be a suitable place for plants to grow. If not for the magical energy, Lu Shu would have thought that the land had been abandoned. Lu Shu asked softly, "There's something you are scared of in this remains?" The king cow looked at Lu Shu embarrassed. If anyone feels that he was invincible, that person would be extremely ignorant. "I didn't expect you to have such a mentality, looks like I have underestimated you," said Lu Shu. The king cow choked. "Am I here to discuss philosophy with you?" "What's with the tree in front?" asked Lu Shu. "Keep quiet," warned the king cow. However, at this moment, a crisp voice was heard from the tree. "Stupid cow, you are here?" Lu Shu realized that both the king cow's ears suddenly stood up and the hair on his ears stood up in anger. Then, the king cow said without emotion, "Yes, I am here." The king cow glared at Lu Shu and continued walking with Coral and Lu Shu. Then, he said as he lowered his voice, "Before nightfall, no matter if you succeed or not, you must leave this tree." Lu Shu and Coral glanced at each other. He thought that it was the voice of a girl, clear and pleasant to the ears. However, the king cow was extremely wary of the little girl, acting as though she was extremely terrifying. Lu Shu was not foolish. He would not mock the king cow for being afraid of a girl at this moment, as he knew that there must be something wrong for such unusual things to happen. In the Forbidden Land full of terrifying creatures, he could not underestimate any people or things. The king cow walked past the tree with Lu Shu and Coral. Lu Shu suddenly saw a girl sitting on the tree. She looked as though she was 14 or 15 years old and her body was covered by leaves. "Stupid cow, who are they?" asked the girl. "You haven't brought any humans here for a long time." "Yesterday, Brother Meow Meow came over and told me that we have a chance of getting out." "Did he tell you that?" "He didn't tell me that," said the king cow emotionlessly. "They are humans." Lu Shu was stunned. Could the Brother Meow Meow be the mysterious young man? The name was weird. Chapter 1189, Lural. Lu Shu thought about what the girl said. He was almost 90% certain that Brother Meow Meow was referring to the mysterious young man who arrived suddenly. Based on what Lu Shu knew, only the mysterious young man could pass through the Forbidden Land and the outside world. However, the little girl was very strange. She seemed very nice to the king cow, but the king cow was very afraid of her initially. However, as Lu Shu looked at the king cow again, he realized that the old cow looked extremely pleasant and no longer had the fear in his eyes. This made Lu Shu confused, as he did not know what was going on. The king cow told him to leave no matter what before nightfall. Could the day and the night be a boundary? Lu Shu turned and looked around. He did not see any signs of life around the big tree. Moreover, the king cow had once explained to the girl that both Lu Shu and Coral were humans. Did that imply that the girl was not a human? A creature could only speak if it was rank 1. Some could speak, but some could not. On the other hand, in order to take the form of a human, the creatures had to be at least a master. Lu Shu had a headache. The remains were really strange. Why were there so many monsters of the Master Realm? Moreover, he felt that if the remains opened, it was only a matter of minutes before it affected the outside world. Even Tang Sang 1 might not be able to make it out alive. Of course, Lu Shu had not seen the full version of Journey to the West and was making a wild guess. The king cow smiled to the girl. You guys can leave, I can't. Brother Meow Meow said it's alright. You will no longer be restrained. This is not something we can decide on, there will be someone who decides on this, said the little girl. She looked at Lu Shu and Coral. Sister, you are very pretty, my name is Gu Xiaoqin, what's your name? I am Lurel, Coral smiled and said, my Chinese name is Lurel. With a loud shooting sound, Lu Shu felt as though his heart was penetrated by the gungner again. He did not expect Coral to come up with this Chinese name. Moreover, Gu Xiaoqin and King Cao were speaking in Mandarin and it felt less awkward when she introduced herself this way. However, Lu Shu was wondering why had the girl called Coral older sister, although she seemed rather old. Lu Shu was waiting for the girl to call him older brother, but Gu Xiaoqin said to Lu Shu, what about you, young man? What's your name? Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Her way of addressing people changed so quickly? Was she being biased? If she had been more exaggerated, the seniority would have been messed up. Although Lu Shu wanted to be forever young too, however, he could not take it when a girl called him young man. It felt as though he was taken advantage of. At this moment, Gu Xiaoqin waved her hands and said, never mind, your name is not important. Come down. Lu Shu pointed to Gu Xiaoqin. Come down, did you hear me? Why isn't my name important, am I not a human? Why are you looking down on me? The king cow was speechless. Coral was speechless. Gu Xiaoqin was speechless. From Gu Xiaoqin's distress, plus 666. From the king cows. Gu Xiaoqin said calmly, leave, she's coming out. Suddenly, the king cow turned and fled after hearing that sentence. Lu Shu felt that something was wrong. He was an extremely alert person, how would he be taken advantage of? After the king cow ran, he carried Coral and followed behind. As Lu Shu ran, he turned and looked behind. He saw the leaves on the gigantic tree fall and was blown towards them like sharp knives. Meanwhile, Gu Xiaoqin's expression had calmed down and was no longer smiling. She looked as though she had become another person. Meanwhile, the girl had grown quickly and turned into an extremely beautiful adult. This was King mind-blowing. No, this was worse than that. Thank goodness, Lu Shu ran fast enough. After he stepped outside the region of the tree with Coral, the king cow turned around and looked back. The leaves stopped moving after the boundaries of the tree and grew back onto the tree. The king cow said angrily, why did you provoke her? I shouldn't have brought you here. What on earth is happening? Lu Shu was dumbfounded, why did her temper change so quickly? How would I know, said the king cow as he began walking with the cows. He said as he walked, stop asking me to help you, she's the only one who can help you. You knew that this will happen, that's why you warned me to leave before nightfall, asked Lu Shu, was she always like that? No, the king cow stopped and thought, she used to look like what she was in the nighttime and no creatures nearby dared to go near. It was only a while ago that I realized that she had changed back into the little girl and her personality became much more likable. She was like another person. Lu Shu suddenly realized that the name of Gu Xiaoqin in his records changed to Gu Qin. Moreover, from what the king cow said, Gu Qin was probably at the top of the food chain in the Forbidden Land. The other creatures were extremely afraid of her. We became friends and I found out about her split personality in the day and at night. Gu Xiaoqin likes to make friends with humans but Gu Qin was as terrifying as before, sighed the king cow. Why did she become like this? Asked Lu Shu curiously. The Forbidden Land felt like a world of cultivation, even the creatures were supernatural. Meanwhile, People from the outside world seemed to be protected, and all the creatures who were dangerous had been trapped inside the Forbidden Land. She said she wanted to make friends with others, but none of the creatures dared to make friends with her, said the king cow. This made Lu Shu stunned. She developed a split personality who was likable by others because she wanted to make friends and talk to others. How lonely it must have been. Suddenly, Coral turned and walked back. Her action was too sudden that Lu Shu was unable to stop her. "What are you doing?" asked Lu Shu in shock. Then, he saw Coral walk towards the shadow of the tree and said to Gu Qin, "Hey, let's be friends. My name is Lural." The king cow saw how Lu Shu's energy rose as though he would protect Coral with his life if Gu Qin dared to attack her. However, the king cow did not see the over 10,000 lightning aura blades fly out of the sword prototype in Lu Shu's Sea of Qi and Snowy Mountain, spinning like a whirlwind in his Sea of Qi. Although Lu Shu did not want to create trouble, that did not mean that he was afraid of causing trouble. After all, he was a master. The king cow made a scorching hot huff and said in disdain, "Tsk tsk, the foul smell of love." Chapter 1190, The Secret of the Remains. Lu Shu stood quickly behind Coral. He knew what Coral wanted to do and was very impressed by her bravery. Standing in front of an unknown master as a rank 1, even if Coral was at the peak of rank 1, it was only a matter of seconds if Gu Qin wanted to kill her. However, Coral was not afraid. Lu Shu did not sense any fear from her. Coral had really felt Gu Qin's loneliness and wanted to make friends with her. Lu Shu sighed. He felt embarrassed because of Coral's kindness. However, the remains were dangerous like any other remains. This would not change because of a human's intention. It was definitely a good thing to show kindness to the world. However, Lu Shu never thought about handing his fate to others. Nevertheless, Gu Qin did not attack Coral but suddenly asked, "Are you not worried that I will kill you?" Coral smiled. "You won't, you stopped earlier on. I also have another friend who is a tree. Initially, I thought he was unpleasant but found out that he was a nice guy afterwards." Lu Shu froze as he heard this. He thought that Gu Qin was about to kill them earlier on, but Coral was talking about the world tree. Gu Qin sat back down on the tree branch. "Everyone knows how to say that. Your friend behind you is about to attack me." Coral thought and said, "I can't stop him, I like how he is always protecting me." The king cow yawned and mumbled as he crouched on the ground. "Are we done?" He calmed down upon seeing Coral and Gu Qin interacting peacefully. Gu Qin did not expect Coral to say that. After a long pause, she suddenly said, "Do you have a lot of friends?" "I don't have many friends," said Coral calmly. "However, one does not need to have so many friends." "I only have 2 friends, Stupid Cow and Brother Meow Meow," said Gu Qin. "Why are you guys here for?" Coral thought and said, "Others probably came to look for treasures. I came to look for him." As she said that, she turned and pointed at Lu Shu while the king cow rolled his eyes. Lu Shu was speechless. "Why do you have to be so dramatic?" However, upon hearing that Coral came over to look for him, Lu Shu was not surprised at all. In fact, he had guessed it. Coral said to Gu Qin, "You don't have to forcefully make friends. Everyone has friends who suit them and friends who don't. Look at the person behind me, he has very few friends, but he is not worried at all." Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Was that a personal attack? Why did he get involved in this conversation? Who had very few friends, huh? Fortunately, the person who said that was Coral. If Chen Zuan was the one saying that, he probably would have been beaten to death. Gu Qin looked at Lu Shu. "That's right, he does not look like a person with many friends." "That's right," said Coral while smiling. "Nobody dared to approach him when he entered this world. Everyone shunned him as they were afraid." "That sounds like what happens to me," nodded Gu Qin. After Coral said that, she was no longer as annoyed with Lu Shu. Lu Shu could not hold it in any further. Hey, stop it, don't reveal everything. At this moment, the king cow said lazily, I have been observing him for 3 days. This guy shouldn't have friends. What's wrong with all of you? Aren't we making friends? Why did it turn into my dissing session? Lu Shu's face was black. Why did the king cow add fire to the fuel? I am speaking the truth, said the king cow in disdain. He had been following Lu Shu secretly these 3 days after realizing that Lu Shu could induce lightning. He wanted to rush forward as soon as possible when Lu Shu induced lightning. Then, he realized that Lu Shu was extremely sneaky. He was extremely powerful, but he kept tricking others while hanging around a group of practitioners. Of course, that was why he appeared so quickly when the white serpent and Lu Shu barged into the barrier. In fact, the white serpent was also very surprised. In the past, the cows needed a while to react, but this time, they came so quickly and the white serpent was unable to react. However, all of these were not important. The important thing was that the king cow did not view Lu Shu as a good person. The king cow asked Coral, Lady, why are you attracted to him? Lu Shu stared at the king cow. Come, let's fight. Sure, I am not afraid of you, sneered the king cow, you must have just attained the master realm. Do you know how long has it been since I attained the master realm? Lu Shu laughed coldly, if we can calculate our capability based on time, then writing the year we have attained the master realm will do. Why do we need to fight? Alright, stop fighting, Coral smiled before turning to Gu Qin, you don't have to change yourself. Friends you make after changing yourself are not real friends. Real friends should understand you, sympathize with you, share your joy and unhappiness. Look, if the person behind me has friends, you definitely deserve to have friends. That's right, Gu Qin said. Lu Shu did not want to speak anymore as there was no use. Both Coral and Gu Qin were purposely bad-mouthing him. Lu Shu had heard that the condition for 2 girls to become good friends was simple. They just had to badmouth another person together. In the past, Lu Shu did not believe that there was any pure friendship on earth. Now, he did. Do you guys want to leave? Asked Gu Qin suddenly. Actually, even if I help you guys leave this forbidden land, you guys might not be able to leave this world. This is a gigantic jail cell. All of us are kept here because we made mistakes. The person who locked us up once said, when a large amount of strangers enters, we have a chance to leave. However, we only have one chance and the other party seem to have arranged for everything. Brother Meow Meow seems to know more, but he is unwilling to say. Coral frowned and asked, who locked all of you here? Gu Qin and King Cow exchanged gazes as though they were contemplating on whether to reveal it. The king cow said, just say it, it is not a big secret anyway. It's God Lu, said Gu Qin. Hold on, Lu Shu froze, did you mispronounce it or something? From Gu Qin's distress, plus 748. Gu Qin was annoyed, it is God Lu. Lu Shu was speechless.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens to tell us things that we beg to know. Like what did the song mean? There's no tomorrow.